What's up, guys? It's Daniel here from Mute the Pianos, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Neighborhood album, Chrome and The Monotones. The Neighborhood are an indie rock group that blew up in 2013 with their hit song, Sweater Weather, a song that I personally have never cared for. It sounds incredibly generic, lacks any sort of identity, and was completely unmemorable for me. I didn't see the Neighborhood as a group who were making interesting songs, new songs, songs that I really wanted to keep an eye out for. And so I never really thought about the Neighborhood that much. However, recently my friend told me that I should check out the new Neighborhood album, this one right here. And given the title and the idea that it might be a concept album, I was intrigued. The title seems like some kind of reference to David Bowie with Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And this idea of an alter ego obviously is not new to the Neighborhood. It's been used many times before in music. But I thought that maybe, the Neighborhood could provide an interesting spin on it and bring some of their personality into it and actually make something that sounds unique to them. And well, kinda. So, with David Bowie, when he had his alias of Ziggy Stardust, and also his alias of the Thin White Duke, he's kind of talking about ideas of addiction, specifically cocaine addiction, which is what he was struggling with a lot of the time. And when I was reading interviews with Jesse, the main guy behind this album, he was talking about how he was kind of using this as a idea of social media addiction, maybe technology addiction in some sort of way, which seemed interesting enough to me. It's definitely not the first time that idea has been explored with something like Childish Gambino's Because the Internet or something like that. But I still thought this might be interesting. And it definitely seems to have that kind of idea of tech and electronic stuff from the first song, Chrome, which is a pretty good ambient electronic intro that I think really sets the tone of this album pretty well. Nothing too crazy or special, but it's a nice short intro to the album. And then we get the song Pretty Boy, which is an incredibly beautiful song. I can't lie. It's about the world kind of ending, this post-apocalyptic kind of love song. And Jesse kind of singing about how even when the world ends, this person is the only person that he wants with him. And it's honestly a really beautiful and heart-wrenching story that I don't think really develops that well over the course of the song. It doesn't do anything super crazy, unique, or interesting for me, but it's still really beautiful. And the sense of nostalgia and beauty that overlays this entire song totally makes up for its lack of lyrical depth. And Jesse's vocals on this song as well are really beautiful and really feel like such a huge step up from something like Sweater Weather. It feels like he's truly found his own identity as a vocalist, which I really love. However, this song, if you're trying to kind of come up with some kind of concept, doesn't really fit into the idea that I was having about this album. And I was like, okay, maybe it's not what I thought it was originally. Maybe this is some kind of love story. Maybe it's like a robot kind of trying to fall in love for the first time, this Chrome character, which I think would be kind of interesting. And while I do think, obviously, this idea of somebody who's not used to experiencing love now finally experiencing love has been done before with something like Igor by Tyler, the Creator. I still think that they could provide an interesting spin on it on this album. And we get these ideas of love again on the next track, Lost in Translation. However, sonically, this song feels like a complete departure from Pretty Boy in a pretty bad way. It doesn't feel like it's really supposed to be on the same album as Pretty Boy. It feels totally out of place. It's super glossy, it's super clean, it's super overproduced, and I really don't like it that much. The hook is really annoying to me, and lyrically, it's nothing that special. He's just talking about having problems communicating with whoever his significant other is. And while I think that the huge scope of Pretty Boy works really well for it. It feels like you're looking at the entire universe all at the same time with the person that you love. This song feels more like it's down to earth, just saying, oh, well, these are my day-to-day problems in a relationship. And while I do think that could work, the Neighborhood don't pull off that transition well at all. And so it just feels like this abrupt and sudden change into something that doesn't really belong on this album. Or maybe it does, and Pretty Boy isn't the song that belongs. I don't know. But either way, Lost in Translation on its own is not a very good song for me and a huge nosedive on the album. However, the album does look up again with the next song, Devil's Advocate, which I think easily is the best song on the album lyrically. The song kind of deals with these ideas of anxiety, of not really being able to trust yourself, of constantly second guessing everything that you're doing. Which, while that can sometimes be healthy, to not just blindly charge into everything without considering both sides, it can also be really paralyzing and it can make you feel kind of stuck and trapped. And I think that Jesse really pulls off this idea really well. I think it's the only time on the album where he has a concept going into a song and he executes it pretty much perfectly. I think this is an incredible song and really just beautifully and amazingly well written. However, it doesn't really lyrically tie into anything that he's been talking about so far on the album, which is disappointing. The album starts feeling more and more like kind of a mess conceptually, which, while if they just wanted to make an album filled with just songs, that's okay. They can do that. But unfortunately, they kind of set a precedent of this is going to be an interesting concept album. It's going to be the new kind of Ziggy Stardust idea. And they don't follow through well on that at all. The next song, though, Hell or High Water, does also have some pretty decent lyrics. Kind of talking about how he feels like he went through hell to get through where he is now. But now that he is where he is in this life, he feels like he's constantly trying not to drown. Like now that he finally has what he wants in this life, he feels like it could be taken away from him any second and that he's struggling to just keep on going. It's an interesting concept. But again, it doesn't develop into anything that crazy. This song feels just alright for me instrumentally. And while lyrically it is a great song on the album, instrumentally, sonically, nothing that great. And then we have Cherry Flavored, which is a song I'm a little bit conflicted about. It's a really, really beautiful song. One of the best produced songs on the album. It feels super dreamy and really sonically captures that title of Cherry Flavored. I don't know. I really like it. However, lyrically, it doesn't feel cohesive in the slightest. It feels like maybe he's trying to do some kind of idea of like sugarcoating things when he's talking to people or something like that, but the hook doesn't really have much to do with that, unfortunately. And the hook has probably one of the most cliche lines you can possibly write in a song. I've been getting high, it's keeping me low now. Then we get the next song. Oh boy, do we get the next song. The Monotones. What is this? Why? Why would they put this on the album? It is absolutely terrible. Basically, Jesse, in this super bad auto-tune voice, starts singing the word boys over and over, and then talking about how there's these like voices in his head, stuff like that. I might be more inclined to discuss this song and do an analysis of it lyrically more in depth if musically it wasn't just absolutely horrid. I literally can't bring myself to sit through this song every time I listen to it. It is one of the shortest songs on the album, so I am grateful for that. But this song adds absolutely nothing and takes away so much from any kind of mood that the Neighborhood could have been building towards on this album. It's absolutely horrid and ugly. And while I'm not saying that I never like ugliness in music, there have been plenty of examples, like The Velvet Underground and Nico is one of my favorite albums of all time. But it takes a certain level of expertise to really nail that idea of ugliness. And The Neighborhood do not do a good job of that on this song at all. And it's really disappointing. I don't know why they decided that this would be a good song to have on the album. Tones, things look up a little bit with the song BooHoo, which has my favorite hook on the album since Pretty Boy. It's honestly just really nice and smooth, and Jesse's voice is pretty nice on this hook. However, again, no lyrical focus. It seems like on the verses he's trying to talk about his insecurities in relationships, but on the hook he doesn't really reinforce that idea at all, which is really disappointing. And I don't really know what he was really going for on the song. I don't know what the title of it is supposed to mean either, BooHoo. It's just a kind of unfocused song with a pretty decent hook. I can give it that, but nothing besides that really worked for me well at all. And then we have Silver Lining, which feels like the most direct reference we've had so far to the idea of Chip Chrome and the Monotones. Maybe, in my opinion. Because I think that idea of silver lining could be kind of wordplay, double meaning. Silver lining meaning, looking for the bright side of things and finding that silver lining, but also silver lining meaning the lining of like Chip Chrome and the Monotones. It seems kind of metallic and silvery. And I don't know, maybe I'm just completely reading into it too much, but I think that was kind of interesting, although if he was trying to make a reference to the Chip Chrome idea, I don't know why that doesn't show up more on the album, and it feels like too little too late for the concept. I think that he should have just kind of completely left that concept out if he wasn't really going to incorporate it in any interesting way. Because at this point, it doesn't feel like he's really doing anything with that idea. And instrumentally, this song isn't anything super amazing. I do like the heavy guitar riffs on every few beats, though. Those are pretty nice. And he might be talking about lyrically him not really looking for the silver lining, or maybe that the silver lining isn't always good. I'm not really sure. And then we get these same kind of ideas with the next song, Tobacco Sunburst, where he does seem like he's trying to look on the bright side of life. And it's a really beautiful acoustic ballad. And his vocals super shine through on this song. I really do love it. It doesn't have the best lyrical focus, but it's made up for by these really beautiful instrumentals and Jesse's fantastic vocals. It feels like the best song we've had in terms of sound in a while. And it makes me wish that he had been able to pull off something like this more on the album, which it's really disappointing that he didn't. And it makes songs like Lost in Translation even more confusing as to why they exist on this album, next to songs that are as beautiful as this. And then finally, we have the closer, Middle of Somewhere, where he's kind of saying the exact same thing he said on Hell or High Water, that he tried to get his way up to the top. Now that he's finally at the top, he is trying to escape the top. He's trying to escape the industry. It feels bad for him. It's nothing new, really. The song starts off kind of boring. It has a decent build-up, but I don't know. I wasn't really interested in it that much, especially as a closer. I think you need a lot more power to be a closer, and I think that honestly he probably could have just closed with Tabasco Sunburst, and I think it would have worked better. Yeah, kind of an underwhelming finish to a bit of an underwhelming album. There were a few songs on this album that I truly did love. I think Pretty Boy is great. I think Tabasco Sunburst is great. I think The Devil's Advocate is pretty good. But it doesn't come together to form anything that cohesive. It feels like on certain songs he does sound really well. On certain songs he does lyrics really well. But there are no songs that I feel like he does everything super well. And it's really disappointing because I do think that The Neighborhood, if they really try to, could make something more focused, more unique, more consistent. They have the ability to do it. And so it's disappointing that they're not. And that this is what's being passed off for as some grand and interesting concept album. The idea of Chip Chrome and the Monotones could have been really interesting. And I'm surprised that they didn't try and focus on that idea more. It's really strange and disappointing that this idea barely turns up anywhere on the album. So, yeah, those are basically my thoughts on it. I think I'm at about a 5 out of 10 on this album, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you thought that this was a masterpiece, if there was some kind of concept you discovered to it that I completely missed, I would love to hear your thoughts. And let me know if there are any other albums you'd like me to review. I have some ideas for albums I'm going to be reviewing next week, but if you got any ideas, shoot them my way and I'll let you know. But besides that, have a great rest of your day, everyone.